Hey guys, what's up? It's just Connor here. Hope you're having an amazing week. In today's video, we're going to be covering a live objection handling sales recording, right? Now the reason why is two reasons. First reason is that I posted a sales call recording breaking down the cost of an action phase just last week, right? The prospect took me off and didn't give me the right answer, and I redirected it using an analogy and a metaphor and basically just showcasing my sales skills, right? That got a lot of likes, engagement, and comments, right, and views. And so I'm going to make another one, right? So if you guys are enjoying this, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment, right? Tell me if you like this. Tell me if you're enjoying these trainings. Are you getting valuable insights, right? Do you enjoy seeing these videos? If you do, please comment and I will make more, right? This is the whole purpose of the channel, right? I want people to get the free value. And of course, the second reason, as I spoke about before, is to communicate and display in a public setting, I guess, the efficacy, the efficiency, but the certainty that I have behind my sales skills in a public setting, right? Because I know that most of my competitors are scared to do so. Why? Because 80 to 90% of them, right, typically, right? There are definitely some, great guys out there that do some amazing stuff, right? But I'm talking about 80 to 90%. There is a 10% that are, fantastic people and they do very, very well. But there's about 80, large majority, they won't show you sales calls in a public setting, right? They might say it's because of my paid training, it's for my paid training students only, or this or that. They'll give you plenty of excuses, right? The reason I'm showing you these sales call recordings is, again, to really show you that I walk the walk, right? I don't just talk the talk. I don't just come on the YouTube channel to start, bashing you because you're not where you want to be. I'm making these videos out of experience, and I think that's my key point of difference, right? I'm actually a guy who's done this, who still does this to this day, right? Inside of the RSA, the Remote Sales Academy, right, we review sales call recordings of my own every single week, right? We review what calls that went well. We review calls that went bad, right? I am not perfect. I am not the best salesperson in the world. I'm not the best sales trainer in the world. I'm very far from it, right? But I'm much better than average and better than majority of a lot of these guys you've probably seen out there, right? Hence why I'm making these videos, which is to communicate, again, I guess, the efficacy and the certainty behind my sales process, okay? So with that said, guys, let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to give you some context, okay? So as you can see, this time the prospect is blurred out because this was on an offer that was not mine. So I'm making sure that everyone's protected from a confidentiality standpoint, okay? So context was this amazing gentleman. I was selling a $5,000 business coaching training, right? So helping him scale his trade business. I can't remember what it was specifically at the point in time. Let's say he was a painter, right? So he's a painter, right? He's got a lot of systems that he needs to fix up within the business. That includes marketing, that includes team, accounting, all of this type of stuff, right? These are problems that he's dealing with. And so basically, this $5,000, right, is going to help him over the next 6 months, 3 months with an online portal, online training, education, coaching. He's going to have a one-on-one onboarding session with like an accountant, X, Y, and Z. And ultimately, it's going to help him get to where he wants to be, right? So that's the context, right? Now, at this point in time in the call, the total call length is 40 minutes, right? Usually most sales calls for me typically last between the 25 to 40 minute range. Some are much more quick, some are much more quicker, much faster, whichever way you want to say that. Some are a little bit longer, and that might be for objection handling reasons. That might be certain things that I had to plug in information gaps on the call. That might be a multitude of variables, right? But just giving you some context here, okay? So with that said, let's dive in. And the first thing that we're going to hear, we've gone through the price, we've gone through the presentation, and now at this point, he is giving me, I would like to speak to my accountant objection. So let's go ahead and see what he says. So at this point, sorry for the squeakiness of the microphone. At this point, the prospect, again, he's a little bit jumpy. and he's going into either fight or flight mode. Okay, so in objection handling, people are going to go into either fight or flight mode, right? Because they feel like they're going to get sold, right? They know what's coming, right? They feel like they're going to get closed. So the absolute best thing that I can do is be absolutely calm, right? No stress, right? Lean back a little bit. So in my posture, I might, sit back a little bit and actually, be a little bit more at ease, right? To ease the tension, right? Most salespeople really, really, X themselves out of the call at this point. Say, oh yeah, it's no worries. And then they'll book in a second call, or they'll start to flail their arms about trying to handle objections, right? Because they don't know what to say. Right? There's two things with objection handling usually. The reason most people fail at it is because they lack a structure, or secondly, they run out of things to say, right? When you lack a structure, you start to what? You start to just say random things, you start to get stressed, you start to be more intense, right? And what does that do? Triggers sales resistance and sales pressure on the prospect, right? So what he's going to do if I do that is he's going to leave the call. So what I need to do is I need to be authoritative, but while still being calm, right? That's one thing I've always been complimented on when it comes to objection handling, which is always being super, super calm. So let's see the way that I'll handle it.
Just so I understand, when it comes to talking to, you say like a financial advisor, who would
No,
that
just
be?
my accountant.
Your
Because
accountant. Right, I understand.
I'm having a financial review next Friday, just in regards
Okay.
to Dean. And then yeah, I thought I was going to actually contact them and discuss this prior to going ahead with
Yeah,
that
for sure.
so
I can understand that for sure. That's
yeah.
that's not an issue, but I guess.
Okay, so something I want to point out here is I'm interrupting him. The reason why, in objection handling, a lot of the stuff that people are saying is you probably wouldn't care about because he's kind of flailing his arms about, right? So he's in almost flight mode. So the difference between fight is they get really aggressive, right? The prospect gets aggressive towards you, right? They get pissed off, right? They get angry. Whereas flight is they're a little bit jittery, right? They're a little bit all over the place, right? So he's kind of in that state. So what I need to do is I need to interrupt him, right? And take the conversation down where I want to take it, right? Which is going to be, again, tying off the logistical money objection first. So let's see what I do here.
Funding aside, like, is this something that you feel like you'd want to do?
Oh, absolutely, yes, definitely. Definitely seems like something. Yeah, I'm
So,
happy.
what specific element of the training do you think would help him best? Do you think?
Okay, so breaking this down here. So funding aside, all right, so first I said that's not a problem. So I'm diffusing the objection. So again, easing tension, taking a step back, right? It's not a problem, right? So I'm being calm about it, right? So easing the sales pressure and going funding aside, right? So variable aside, do you still feel like this would be the answer for you? Do you still feel like this is what you're looking for, right? So what this is doing is trying to get an in-principle agreement between me and the prospect that what I'm selling him is in his best interest, okay? So he says yes. And so what I immediately need to interrupt with is, why do you feel like it is though? Well, what specific element of the training do you feel like would be a fit? The reason I typically say, why do you feel like it is it induces emotion, right? So we buy with emotion, we justify with logic. So I use the words like feel, which is again an emotional word. So why do you feel like it would though? Right? What that does again, it gets an in-principle agreement between me and the prospect that what I'm selling them is in their best interest, right? So there's no way of getting out of this, right? They know that they need it and they're telling me why. Now, the reason I use a variation of like what specific element of the training do you feel like would be a fit for you is I've already said in my presentation, again, do you feel like this is what you're looking for? Why do you feel like it is? So I can't say the same thing again. I need to say it a different way so it doesn't come off as a technique.
Yeah, there's just more systems. I think like getting systems in just to make things a lot easier in regards to say quoting, yeah, like quoting jobs, getting more leads. I would say. I'm not sure if that's up there. as
Yeah,
well.
it could be quite tricky for sure.
What else?
Now, I guess,
Okay, so two things here that you want to analyze. So the first thing is you can see he is more calm, right? So you can see a couple seconds ago, right? 10, 20, 30 seconds, a minute ago, he was much more faster. His cadence was much more faster, right? He was speaking a lot more quicker, right? Or quickly. So his pace has changed. This is exactly what we're talking about. If I'm calm, he's calm, right? He's going to mirror that, right? And so he's a lot less jittery. He's speaking a lot less quickly, right? So that's one thing to note here. Now, the second thing to note here again is I interrupted him, right? And that was on purpose, right? When he said enough, he already told me why. So we now have ticked that box and now we need to move on. So what we need to do is, again, we need to isolate and then really, really hone down of like, okay, let's figure out a financial solution and agree on a payment plan or a pay in full, right? If we don't agree on one of those, what will happen is if I start to try and handle a mindset objection, so a think about objection, right? Start trying to hit him over the head with a mindset bat and he can't afford it, well, he's going to get pissed off and I'm never going to speak to him again. Why? Is because if I'm saying you have a bad mindset and he just doesn't have the right enough money, well, he's going to get pissed off, right? As anybody would. I would get pissed off at that. I literally have had a student join my training program just last week who he was on a sales call with one of my competitors, right? And their salesperson kept on hitting him over the head with a mindset bat of like, you just don't have a good mindset. You just don't have a good mindset. But his problem was it was a huge financial decision and he needed to make sure that it was the right one, right? And he needed to make sure that the logistics of his finances were in, I guess, the right way so that he could make that purchasing decision, right? But they ended up forcing a deposit off of him, like taking $300 off of him and then coming and buying from me. Why? Because I understand sales correctly, right? If someone doesn't have the money, they don't have the money, right? This is a really, really key critical thing that I see all the time. A lot of the guys in my space like to force deposits out of people, right? Or just like try to hit someone over the head with a mindset bat when, you know, they're trying to handle there's a logistical objection behind it anyway. So again, doesn't make any sense. So we have to tick off those boxes first.
just to understand, when you're talking to your account, right? I can understand that, but I guess I'm concerned.
Sorry for the pauses, guys, but it's important to break it down. And the squeaks of the mic is quite annoying, so I do apologize. But more specifically on here, I said, I can understand that. Like, I hear you, right? But I'm concerned, right? People are more naturally inclined and open if someone is concerned about them. They like to reassure the other person that they are okay. It's within human nature, right? It's the same thing when you apply this to curiosity, right? People are more open to people who are curious about their life situation or what they're talking about, right? Because they want to answer someone's questions, right? They want to help, right? People want to be of service, right? That's how humans are, right? So the more naturally curious you are, the better answers you are going to get, right? We talk about this a lot inside the Remote Sales Academy training, but let's keep going.
But at the end of the day, man, this is your business. You run this business. You're the lead. You're the captain of the ship, right? At the end of the day, like if you go to your accountant and say, I want to do a 5,000 business coaching program that's going to help me with my business, do you think they're going to say that that's a great idea or a bad idea?
Oh, they're going to say it's a good idea. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm not quite sure that they will, right? Because at the end of the day, at an accountant's point of view, they're looking at just the numbers, right? Gross profit, that's all that they see at the end of the day. But I guess the suggestion that I can make, if I can, is at the end of the day, you're the business owner, you're the leader, you're the captain of the ship. When you ask someone that's, for example, if you're driving the wheel of a ship and you're asking someone who's shipment hands down below the deck, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense because, you know, if you ask them to come up and drive a ship, they're going to be all over the place, you're going to be going everywhere, right? So at the end of the day, man, you know, when it comes to like speaking accountants, things like that, I can break this down and make it a lot more digestible for you so that even, you know, when you go and have that chat, if you want to have the rest and pull that out, you can. But I can just make it so you can just make it more digestible over 3 months. So you don't have to waste any more time, you know, kind of thinking about systems you don't implement. But you actually have everything that you need to put yourself in a position to start winning in the business.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Kind of
Yeah.
my thought process there.
Just a bit better. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, because like you could digest it, and then if like there's nothing that would change.
No.
Put you on like what's the name you can see here, like I can put you on like 3 months for 1667. Nothing changes. It's
Yeah.
still 5,000 overall. Do you feel like that would help?
Yeah, that might help now, just because
Yeah.
obviously that, yeah, that would.
Yeah, and then we need to go have a conversation. I mean, by doing that today, what you will do is you're actually making that change to go from, like I mentioned, from trading to business owner. You're making that commitment that step. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So what we can do is, did you say you had to go grab your power or something like that?
Yeah, I think I'll just quickly run. I think it's in the garden.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it there. So you can see a very clear transition from someone who's telling me they need to speak to their accountant to now basically taking 5K, right? This is the true difference, right? Being able to, again, clearly understand how to handle objections, have the right structure, not run out of things to say. And what I use there is what we call an analogy, right? And more specifically, a leadership reframe, right? So getting quite advanced on you guys here. But a leadership reframe is, again, taking that. Basically what I did is in the earlier parts of that call, which you'd see the entirety of the call if you are inside the paid community, the RSA. But I use what's called identity reframing, right? And so there's a big difference between the identity of a tradesman and a business owner. And the gap between those two is the decisions that the person makes. And so what I can do is I can use that from earlier on the call, later on the call, to bridge the gap and then get them to, again, you're fighting the old identity, right? Versus me, right? You can hear the languaging. What do you need to do to put yourself in the best position to win? What do you need to do to put yourself in the best position to start changing the business, okay? So it's, excuse me. So it's never, you have to buy my product, you have to buy my thing. It's, what do you have to do, man? Like, what do you have to do to change, right? And that's, I guess, the whole difference with a lot of these sales processes, right? It's a lot more of getting the prospect to persuade themselves as to why they have to do something rather than that of hard closing, hard selling, right? Which is a lot of these guys I've seen teach. Hence what I've seen an example with one of the students last week that literally joined my training even after he put down a non-refundable deposit with another training program, right? Because he came on a call, he had a conversation with me. He vibed better with me. He just knew he could trust me, and he's in very good and capable hands, right? We literally just released a 2-hour training this week, added more to around like networking and finding the right roles in this industry. Okay. So it's already been a very, very long video, guys. So again, if you found the value, you got an insight, feel free to comment down below. If you enjoyed the training, I can continue making more of these, right? Because again, I think it is important to really put my foot down and show the difference between me and a lot of these other guys in the industry who don't really know what they're talking about, right? Because they haven't done it for a long enough time, right? They haven't invested in the training like I have. That's my point of difference, and I know that, right? I'm going to continue to flex it because I'm very certain in my sales ability, and I'm very certain in my ability to help people like yourself. Okay, so with that said, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video training. Hopefully you got some insights, and I will see you in the next video.